sometimes it pays to be a person who's sentimental and saves things because I was going through boxes of old photos and I stumbled across the really strange and creepy little love poems that a 30-something-year-old man used to leave for me on the table when I was a 15-year-old waitress at a pizza restaurant. And talk about making your skin crawl. It's the
Bob and Sheri Oddcast. The Bob and Sheri Oddcast. Come on in, you'll have a blast with the Bob and Sheri Oddcast.
So there were a bunch of them, and I do not have all of them. I just have a couple that I saved. The others are in a box somewhere in the house. I just don't know where. So here's the deal. I got a job at a pizza restaurant. I started, babysitting when I was probably 11 or 12 and began working. I've worked part-time or full-time since I was 15 years old. And this pizza restaurant was within a bike ride of my house. So I would ride my bike there after school and then ride my bike home at about 11 o'clock at night. And the shortest way home took me through, I'd take a shortcut through a cemetery. I think about my 15-year-old self bicycling through a cemetery at 11:30 at night, and I cannot believe how stupid I was. But there you go. This is why when you yell at your own kids about their dumb decisions, you understand why they make these dumb decisions, because once upon a time you made these dumb decisions.
Cemeteries, it was pointed out to me the other day, are not haunted. Cemeteries are not. And why? Because the people there did not die there.
Well, I wasn't talking about ghosts. I mean, I could have been the victim of a crime, a teenage girl alone on a bike. I saw a lot of things in that period of my life, riding my bike home. I saw a terrible motorcycle accident one night riding my bike home from work. And it was absolutely awful. I jumped off my bike. There were no cell phones back then. I jumped off my bike. I ran to the man who was lying in the road. And it was so obvious that he was terribly, terribly injured. And I ran to the house that was nearest and banged on the door until all the lights came on, screaming, and they called 911 on their landline.
I never knew this happened. I never even knew that you did this at night. I'm surprised your grandmother allowed that.
What choice did she have? My grandmother did not know how to drive. I had to work. I mean, we were on welfare. Working was not, I wasn't working for fun money. I had to work.
I know.
I came up really tough. And my grandma, she didn't like it. She hated it. She would stay awake. She would sit up waiting for me in a chair by the front door for me to get home safely from work. I would have to call her from the restaurant. Okay, Grandma, I'm on my way. And she knew roughly how long it would take me to bike home. And then she'd be waiting for me. So yeah, we have so many luxuries now with cell phones and everything, and Find My iPhone. Right. You can track where your kids are, Life 360, all of that. But anyway, the night of the motorcycle accident, it was terrible because it was about 11:30 on a weeknight, and everybody's, for the most part, people's houses were dark. You might see the flicker of a TV. And this motorcycle came screaming past me. I was riding my bike on the sidewalk. He came screaming past me on the road. I don't know what happened, but suddenly he wiped out. He flew through the air and he hit the ground, and his head cracked inside his helmet. His helmet cracked like an egg. There was blood everywhere. He was so very, very hurt. And the ambulance came and the police came. I had to call my grandma from that family whose door I knocked on from their landline and tell her I witnessed an accident. I have to stay. And my grandma was, So a lot of things happened, because things happen when you're 15 on a 10 speed and it's late at night. And we'll just leave off how these were school nights and I was getting up and going to school the next day. Sometimes I look back, I don't know how the hell I did any of it, but
I know.
Anyway, so I have this job, and this pizza restaurant is run by two brothers, Joey and Johnny, who came over from Italy. The pizza restaurant was part of a chain of restaurants that were owned by this family, and these two came over to run it. And they weren't much older than I was, I don't think. And they were, oh my God, they were so handsy and inappropriate and, whatever. But there was this one customer that came in all the time. And typically on a weeknight, I would be the only waitress because it's a pizza restaurant. It's not, Ruth's Chris. And most of our business was takeout. So, I would come in and the day shift girl would leave and I would put on my apron and I would be working the whole dining room by myself. Joey and Johnny and a couple of other guys working the kitchen and the phones. And this man would come in all the time and he would sit by himself and he would always order the same thing. And he would try to like strike up a conversation. And he was in his, I think, probably mid to late 30s. Now, as a waitress, like you have to be friendly to your customers and stuff. But anyone who's tried to strike up a conversation with a 15-year-old girl knows it doesn't go anywhere really fast, does it? He'd be like, so you look extra pretty today. And I'd be like, I'll be right back. And I would run and hide in the kitchen. Anyway, a weird thing happened. Let's pause here and then I'll describe.
Hey, do you own or rent your home? I bet you do. And I bet it can be hard work sometimes. You know what's easy? Bundling policies with GEICO. GEICO makes it easy to bundle your homeowners or renters insurance along with your auto policy.
And it's a good thing, too, because you already have so much to do around your home. Go to geico.com, get a quote, and see how much you could save. It's Geico easy. Visit geico.com today. That's geico.com. So he's in the restaurant all the time. I work probably 3 nights a week, sometimes a weekend shift. He's there every single day. He made me really uncomfortable, but he was a grown-up. And not like a grown up, like, oh, he's 22. He was a grown up, like a grown up. And I was a very, very young for my age, 15, just really innocent and naive and just didn't really understand a lot of things. And I didn't understand why this guy was always in the restaurant. And Joey and Johnny didn't like him, but he's a customer, right? So, there you go. Well, he starts asking me questions like, I bet you have a lot of boyfriends. No. I sure bet all the boys at school. No. Did you want anything else? Here's your check, right? So he started leaving little notes for me underneath his money for his meal and his tip. And it started off kind of like, you have the prettiest eyes. See you next time, John. That was his name. I'd be like, oh my God, you're somebody's dad, probably. You're so gross. And then the notes, they would escalate a little more like, remind me the next time I come in to tell you about blah, blah, blah. Guys, I'm a 15-year-old girl. I don't give a shit about anybody's blah, blah, blah. That's the joy of being a 15-year-old girl. You don't have to give a shit about anybody's blah, blah, blah.
That's true. So before you go on, I'm sure you were as cute as a button. Okay. Did you pick up any kind of a vibe that this guy was just off his rocker?
No, I mean, he was weird, but not crazy, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. Like he was awkward, but not insane. And insane was crazy, dangerous was something I knew very well because that's what I lived with at home. Right. This guy was very, very kind of nebbishy, kind of mild-mannered. You know what I mean? Like he didn't have like an aggressive bad boy energy about him at all. He had more of like a kind of a nerdy, awkward social studies teacher vibe.
Sounds like Norman Bates to me.
But not like there was nothing about him where you could point to it and go, well, here's a freaky guy. But, these notes, they escalated and I would stick them in my apron pocket and then bring them home and I'd read them to my grandmother and she would go, oh, Cher, he's a pervert. Oh, my God, Grandma, you think everybody's a pervert. And she would take a big drag on her Merit Gold 100 and go, tell me when I've been wrong. And to be fair, she could spot a pervert like she had the pervert second sight. So one day I come in and there's an envelope under he eats his cheesesteak or whatever, and there's an envelope under the tip. And he leaves and I go on my, break. We're cleaning up the restaurant. And I open it and it's a piece of stationery that has a dancing Snoopy, like from the Peanuts cartoon. And it's rainbow colored. And it says to Sheri. And he misspells my name, but who doesn't, right? To Sheri, a proposal. And I'm reading this, and here's what it says, because I have it in my hands right now.
You have the actual note right now.
I have the actual note in my hands.
Go ahead.
Which I stuck in a box full of high school stuff and found the other day when I was cleaning.
Yeah.
To Sheri, a proposal. Could I embarrass you if it's only one last time? Could I whisper a sweet and innocent line to you? Because I wonder if you really know how I feel about you. Yes, I adore you. I'm quite awestruck. Don't count me out. Don't be down on lady luck. These words are simple, though loud and clear. You have nothing at all to fear. Come on now, we're running out of time. I offer you an evening out with me sometime. Your choice. Please, come whisper your answer in my ear. Say yes. Love, John. Come on, say yes.
You have nothing to fear.
Except when you put the word fear in a first note to somebody, it's a warning sign.
It is.
Because people that you have nothing to fear from never have to say you have nothing to fear from me.
Exactly.
So first, what in the whole entire endless multicolored three-dimensional fuck was that? Okay. Second, now you have to remember I'm 15 and you guys know me. So like my first thought was, oh my God, he's the worst writer ever. And also I knew instinctively that a man in his 30s probably shouldn't be writing shit like this on Snoopy stationery. Okay.
Seriously.
So, here comes my next shift. I had no idea what to do with this. No idea how to handle it. I submit to you that there are grown-ass adult women who today would not know what to do with this. At 15, I'd never had a boyfriend. I had no idea what to do with this. So I decided that I would pretend it never happened. So he comes in and he's looking at me with his like over fixated stare. Like he just stared at me all the time. And on a slow night when there might be just a handful of customers in the restaurant and some takeout, I could feel his eyes burning into holes into me all the time. But I've decided to act like I never got this letter. Joey or Johnny cleared the table. I never saw it. And he's trying, I can tell that he wants to say something to me, but I'm not going to give him a chance. I'm like, food on the table. I'm out of here. Like, the freaking coyote with a rocket on my back from Acme. A few more notes. And then I get this one, which was written for me on, and I sent Max a picture of it, on stationery that says, I heart Levitt Town.
And who doesn't?
Wow.
And this one
For
goes...
people who don't know, Levitt Town is right after the GIs came back. I think it's Long Island, wasn't it?
There's a couple Levitt Towns. There's one in Pennsylvania, one up in New York.
The developer whose name was Levitt bought this property, just raised every tree on it, and put up very, very small homes, Ranch and Cape Cod, very small homes, so that every GI could afford to have a little, backyard. And they're still there.
I heart Levitt Town. To Sheri, two birds of paradise. Here we go. It starts like this. Talk of the town, an honest look at an aging clown.
Oh, my. Wow.
The pretenders getting me through the night, wishing I could just once hold you tight. I'm so ashamed that my poetry is not what it should be. Let me pause here and say that shame is more than justified.
The Pretenders getting him through the night, was that the rock band or some, spirits in his head?
No, it's capital P, so I'm going to go with Chrissy Hind. Wishing I could just once hold you tight. I'm so ashamed that my poetry is not what it should be. That I'm not doing what you expect of me. Let me pause here. John, here's what I expect of you. Eat your fucking cheesesteak, pay your bill, get in your car, be gone. I am 15 years old. I'm just trying to earn enough money to buy a prom dress here. Okay. I'm not doing what you expect of me. As the LP goes from song to song, I want to belong to you. Trying to suppress my feelings is not always best. I still want you. I'm sure you know the rest. But what keeps me away is I'm really afraid I could hurt you because I'm practically a married man. And if I cheat on her, you may never trust me. You may never understand. Love, John.
And by practically a married man, he means that woman is tied up in his house somewhere.
In his basement. So here's what keeps me away is that I'm really afraid I could hurt you. John, what keeps you away is the law. There are laws in the state of Pennsylvania and New Jersey and pretty much everywhere. You cannot act like this. Then if I cheat on her, you may never trust me. You're old enough to be, like, I think technically he was probably old enough to be my dad if he'd started in 10th grade. You may never trust me. You may never understand. Love, John. Well, at this point now, I cannot pretend that I'm not getting these notes because he's not going to let me pretend that I'm not getting these notes. So the next time he comes in, hey, usual? Well, did you get the poem that I wrote for you? I said, I did. What do you think about it? I said, you're like way too old for me. And you're a customer. This is what happens to young girls, by the way. We are not equipped at 14, 15, 16 years old to play Major League Ball with grown men who are predators. We're not. No,
that's true.
We don't have enough life experience. So here's me, and I'm afraid. Like, I don't know what to do. I know what it's like living with an angry, violent man, and I know that you have to be so careful with men that if you make a man angry, he could hurt you. Even one that seems like an old hush puppy shoe, right? You have to be careful with men. This was like the one life lesson I knew. So I'm like, well, you're like too old for me and you're a customer and like I'm flattered, but I don't think so. And that's when he made his full pitch in person that he had all these feelings and he couldn't stop thinking. And, all I had to do was say the word and he would call off the wedding. You guys, I'm in 10th grade. I want you to call off your fucking wedding. I want someone to help me with my geometry homework. I was like, yeah, damn. No.
Damn.
Yeah. I said, listen, like if my brother knew you were doing this, like he would kill you. He's very protective.
Did you say that to him?
Yeah, because my brother, Mark, part of the reason that at 15 I didn't have a boyfriend was because if a boy showed up at the house, my brother, Mark, would put his arm around the boy, have a few words with him, and I'd never see the boy again. Like my brother was like, and I'd said to him one time, what did you say to Danny Moody? And he said, I told Danny Moody that if he ever came back here again, I'd fucking kill him. Oh, I guess I won't be going to homecoming with Danny Moody then. Anyway, so I'm like trying desperately to.
Yeah, you're better off though, because if you had married him, you would have been Mrs. Moody.
Well, some would argue.
Moody and the show would have been Moody in the morning with Bobby.
So, again, some would argue. So I'm doing the best I can.
Bobby and Mrs. Moody in the morning. That's a good name.
We could have, we could have been contenders if I'd only married Danny Moody. But poor Danny Moody never even made eye contact with me again because my brother Mark had quite a reputation. And when he made a threat, it wasn't an idle threat. I never saw my brother actually beat or even try to beat any of these boys. But my brother's reputation preceded him. And once my brother told you to stay away, you stayed away. Anyway, so of course, this guy doesn't know my brother. But I'm like, my brother, you just have to stop. Like, you need to get married to your fiance. And I am 15. And he's like, I know. And I'm tortured by it. Tortured by it. So that night after that we closed and we were cleaning up, I go back into the kitchen and I had my own issues with Joey and Johnny Gambino. I mean, I spent more time peeling their hands off my ass than I did plating salads. Like, they were so gropey and grabby and inappropriate. But I go to them and I'm like, you guys, this customer, like, I don't want to get in trouble, but And I show them the letter, the talk of the town from the aging clown. And the older brother, the big boss, Johnny, who's like 26, maybe 27, snatches it out of my hand, looks at it, and he hands it back and he says, "You read this to me. I cannot read this shit English." So I read him the letter and they start laughing because it's that bad. Like, you don't even need English as your first language to know it's bad. And Johnny says, I take, the next time he comes in here, I take care of this. He'll never bother you again. And the next time he came in and I looked at Johnny and he said to me, "Stay here." And he goes out to the table. He speaks to the guy. The guy stands up, goes out to his car, drives away, never saw him again.
That's what it took. You know, I read this thing the other day. It was written by a woman who specializes in doing some commentary on a website where she says you need to have these bullets in your gun when you're alone. And so it's like you sit down on the plane and there's a creepy guy next to you. And he says, "Do you travel alone? Are you traveling alone?" You immediately say, "No, my two sisters and my brother are in the back. We couldn't all sit together." You always have these lines that just are available to you to get rid of these creepy guys. As a 15-year-old, you could have said, "My grandmother will not allow me to I live with my grandmother and my grandfather. He's a little violent, and she will not allow me to have boyfriends. I can't even talk about having a boyfriend until I finish school," or something like that. Because you're right, off the top of your head as a young person, you don't have that sort of experience to shut these assholes down.
Well, and I was extra vulnerable because, like my family life was so chaotic. My mom was gone and my father was so violent. But one of the things, and you saw it in the way I handled the situation, kids really do learn what they live. Like, I learned at a very early age that a man is a ticking bomb and you have to be very, very careful or it'll go off. And so like today, like the me that I am today would be like, "Are you kidding me? You asshole, you belong on a sex offender registry. Get the fuck out of this restaurant," right? The me that I am today would not permit this. But the child that I was felt so acutely like, this is a man, he has power. And also he could be very dangerous. And I have to be very careful to not embarrass him or make him feel threatened or make his ego feel threatened, or he could hurt me. And I look back and I look at my little younger self, slinging pizza and just doing her best. And I just want to travel back through time and put my arms around that girl and go, "Listen to me. I come from the future where things are so much better. Trust me, you're going to be okay. Save these letters because one day you're going to be doing this thing called a podcast." I know it sounds like, what is that? The Star Trek. And you're going to read these letters and you're going to have such a great laugh about it. And this feeling that you have that this man is waiting and he's going to follow you home while you're biking through the cemetery and he's going to hurt you for rejecting him, that's not going to happen. Instead, you will get the last laugh. And then I would fade back into the future, right? But you don't know that when you're 15. You don't know. You don't know anything when you're 15. All you know is like, there's a game being played here by rules that no one has shown me. And this is a grown man with crow's feet. Like, that's one of the things I remember about him. He had crow's feet, which don't we all, except when you're 15. Like, why is this adult man acting like this? And also, why does he have Snoopy stationery? So fast forward to which is, I don't have, I'm 15. I'm a 15. You guys, I was an actual 15-year-old girl who did not have Snoopy stationery. So fast forward today and you wonder why, like, I love true crime and Dateline and all of this kind of stuff. No small wonder. Like, and I look back and I think, none of us will ever know how many bullets we dodged, right? You don't know how many close calls you had in life.